Hello guys, and welcome to our second community PvP build. This is a full melee, dual wield 2H stamina sorcerer build in medium armor. It is a brawler spec and it hits so hard. It has so much healing power. This is an absolutely insane in-your-face brawling build for the stamina sorcerer. So if that's what you guys are looking for, this will deliver. Not only is this build great in a brawl scenario, but it is also very fast and well suited for open world PvP on top of it. We are rocking fully buffed 5,500 weapon damage with 3,800 health recovery and 2,100 stam recovery on this build. Absolutely incredible max stats, and yeah, huge amount of healing power on this build, tons of set synergy to make that heal really strong and really add some huge amount of kind of sustained pressure to the medium armor brawler style. Big shout out to Bois for submitting this build. Thank you so much, my man. We of course have a link to his YouTube channel in the description if you guys want to check his channel out for yourselves. And finally, guys, if you guys like what you see here and you want to submit perhaps your own kind of PvP footage or even your own builds, you guys can submit them to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. A link, of course, in the description with a little bit more information for what I need if you guys want to send me submissions. But without further ado, let's check this bad boy out. Looks absolutely beastie. Let's take a look at it. All right, guys. So let's take a look at that build. So to begin, we are a Wood Elf on this Sorc build here. Wood Elf is a good stamina race. However, it is probably not BIS for a full melee focused stamina Sorc. However, that is just the race that Bois picked, so we went with Wood Elf just because that's the one that he wanted to do. He also mentioned that Wood Elf isn't necessarily the best choice. Things like Orc would be really good for this playstyle as well. Khajiit would also be good for the increased crit chance it gets, and then Redguard and Nord are also good staple too. But anyway, let's take a look at the build. Our max stat coming in at 14k magicka, 25.5k hit points, and 31.5k stam. So really nice max stat here, I think. Our recoveries are pretty sweet on this build as well. We're just going to buff up with the potion. 1,230 health recovery, 2,000 and almost 100 stamina recovery. So great recoveries on this spec. And our mag recovery is fairly low. However, we use very few magicka abilities on this build, so it's not a big deal. The weapon damage on this build, when we buff up with our rally here, you can see we're coming in at 3,500. Doesn't seem too terribly crazy. However, due to the sets that we're running, this buffs up to 5,500 weapon damage on this build. So we get a massive amount of weapon damage on this spec while we're in combat. Our weapon critical is coming in at 47, almost 48%. So a great amount of weapon crit. This build is a very high crit build. It relies big time on landing a lot of crits on your opponents. So having a high crit rate helps out a lot. And then our physical spell resist on this spec when we buff it up. Let's buff up right here. We have got just about 19k spell resist and just over 19k physical resist and 2,500 crit resist. So nice bulky stats. We are, of course, in 5 medium armor. So this is pretty standard for medium armor, I think, to have about these resists. And now the last thing that I want to mention is that health recovery. We had that clocked in at 1,200 when we buff. However, we are running the Troll King. So with the Troll King set, we get up to 3,800 health recovery on this build, fully buffed. So a massive amount of health recovery for this spec as well. Really nice for that melee brawler build. Scrolling down a little bit here, taking a look at the Mundus we're running. We've got the Serpent on for the stamina recovery. Very nice. And then for the food and drink that we're using, we are using the Artaeum Takeaway Broth. Now, Bois had sent me the build, and he said use the Dubious Cameron Throne. I actually decided to go with the Takeaway Broth for the build video, simply because it is the superior food for this build. It is more expensive, so I understand why, you know, he'd say go for the Dubious. The Dubious does the exact same thing, minus it doesn't give the health recovery bonus that the Takeaway Broth does. So you pay a lot more money for that extra health recovery bonus, and you get actually just a little bit more max stat from the Takeaway Broth as well. So it's your option for the food. I think the Takeaway Broth is the way to go, giving you that max health, the health recovery, the max stam, and the stam recovery. Can't go wrong for this spec. Alright guys, so let's take a look at the gear that we're running and what really brings this build together. So the first set we already mentioned is the Troll King, and Troll King is going to be a very important set, I think, for the melee distance brawler build. It's going to give you a massive amount of health recovery, which is so good in PvP, and that bonus to the healing done is also nice because this build actually packs a lot of healing power, so that's going to come in a little handy too. The next set that we have on is 7th Legion. And this set here is going to be the set that we have on both swaps, so it'll be the core set of this build. Weapon damage, health recovery, weapon critical. When we take damage, we have a 10% chance to gain 500 weapon damage for 5 seconds and heal a little bit of health, and this can occur once every 2 seconds. Everything in this set is so great for the melee brawler stam build. We've got the weapon damage, we've got the health recovery, and the weapon crit. Everything's so important for that kind of surge healing, especially that crit for surge is really nice. And then we get that massive weapon damage bonus when we take damage, and it's going to heal us as well when the set procs. So a really nice set. For the melee distance brawler, a really great set, I think, because we're going to be spending a lot of time up in people's faces, taking damage ourselves. So this set should be up very often. The next set that we have for this build, and it is on our front dual wield bar only, it is the beautiful Briarheart set. I really like this set for a stam sorc, especially paired with 7th Legion and Surge. We've got a lot of interesting healing power coming in from the sets, as well as maximum damage boosts. So a really great combination for the stam sorc, I think. We get the weapon crit, max stam, weapon crit, really nice for the build. And then finally, when we deal crit damage, we have that 10% chance to increase our weapon damage by 449 for 10 seconds. And while this effect is active, our critical strikes will heal us for 744 health. Really nice, just pairing even more on top of Surge. I have always been a massive fan of the Briarheart set, so I love that he's using this on his stam sorc. A really good, again, melee distance brawler set to just pair with everything else on this build to bring it together. And there you go. The last set that we have on this build, guys, is the Master's Greatsword. And this is going to be the back bar slot for the build. And this is here for that cleave. Make that cleave hit harder. Give this build a very powerful AoE when a lot of opponents are grouped up. Do the cleave into the Dawnbreaker on the front bar. Do some massive AoE burst damage. And of course, this is just going to be nice even if you hit one target to up the damage of the Master's Greatsword cleave ability. So there you go. So for the enchants on this build, we are rocking Infused on the back bar here with that Berserker enchant. So this is really important. We're going to open with the Greatsword as often as we can and make sure we get that weapon spell damage buff because it will carry over to our front bar. And then on the front bar, we have got Nirnhoned on the main hand, and then the back hand is Infused. Now, Nirnhoned on the main hand with that shock damage enchant, I really like the placement of the shock damage here for that chance to proc the minor vulnerability. Of course, Sorc is gets bonuses around shock damage as well, so it will deal a little bit extra damage because he's a Sorc. And then finally, this can proc Implosion too. Really, really nice enchantment slot pick for the Sorc here. Really like it on that Nirnhoned main hand. And then the backhand, he's gone with Infused and the Disease damage enchant. And I like this combo again here because Diseased will have the higher burst out of the shock versus disease enchant on the stam sorc. So that's going to be really nice. And then on top of it, the Infused is just going to push that burst on the disease enchant even further. So a nice amount of damage really coming from the light and heavies simply because we have that Infused back weapon on the dual wield bar. Now for the jewelry, we have got Triune for all our traits on the jewelry, and this was picked to bulk up all that max stat, giving us max health, max magicka, and max stamina. Really nice all-around bulk to the build, really nice for PvP, especially for no CP. It's nice to have some Triune jewelry simply to bulk up your stats. The enchants on this bad boy are, of course, all weapon damage, and that's just going to help push that damage further. The gear that we're running is full impenetrable. He opted out of running well fitted on this build, picking more to go for that kind of brawler impenetrable style. We're a little bit tankier. You could go for some well fitted here if you want, but T-Boys plays this build the most, so he likes the impen, so I would say go with the impen like he says. For the enchants on the gear, full tri-stat Hacky Joe. Definitely want to rock that full tri-stat. Yet again, bulking up all the stats, giving us access to the big pools. Even the nice big Magicka pool is really great for that dark deal. So that's great too. Now, taking a look at the abilities that we're using on this spec, guys, we're going to take a look at the first bar to begin with. Our dual wield bar, we have got Bound Armaments. This is going to be here, I think, purely as the passive slot. Give us a little bit of bonus to our max stamina. Give us a bonus to the light attack damage as well. Dual wield has a nasty amount of light attack damage compared to the other melee weapons. So there you go, bulking that up even more. And then if you activate this ability, you can get the increased block mitigation, but I don't think he's using it for that. The next ability that we have is Resolving Vigor, a really nice tooltip, I think, on this Vigor here. Yeah, what? 15,500 health over 5 seconds. Really nice Vigor tooltip. On top of it, we have got Troll King to go with this build and all the other healing mixed in with our sets and Surge. So yeah, this is going to be the heal when you need it, but for the most part, in combat, you can get away without pumping Vigor too often on this spec because you've got so much healing power as long as you just remain offensive and keep your buffs up. The next ability that we have is Blood Craze. This is going to be a really great damage over time. The amount of upfront damage it does is kind of nice too. It's very cheap, and it's going to apply another heal over time, which is really nice, pairing yet again with everything else on this build, putting massive amounts of heals on this spec. The next ability that we have is Quick Cloak, and this is here for that major expedition that it gives, giving us that increased movement speed. The major evasion is also going to be really nice for the medium armor build. We're going to take 25% less damage from AoE attacks, and then of course if you're playing on the live server, you get the percent chance to dodge other attacks. But during this Murkmire patch, I really like major evasion on medium armor builds. It's going to be really good countering things, especially like Dawnbreaker, which is such a hard thing to fight on a medium armor build. So there you go. And of course, the AoE damage that it gives has a massive radius. On top of it, this can proc all of our sets here with the crits, or it can proc the Blood Craze with the heal off of the crits and everything. So lots of synergy yet again with this ability, and the Hurricane as well. Throw Hurricane on top of it, a lot of AoE damage potential just from being close to something on this build. And then the next ability that we have is Bloodthirst, and this is going to be the primary spammable for the build. It's going to deal a great amount of upfront damage with whopping amounts of damage on the last hit over that 0.6 second channel, and it is going to heal for 73% of the damage done on the last hit, pulling more synergy yet again with this build. We've got the healing coming in, and then we've got multiple attacks here, which is going to be really great for proccing sets like Briarheart if you get the crits off these multiple hits here. And then for the ultimate on this spec, we have gone with the Dawnbreaker of Smiting. And Dawnbreaker of Smiting, of course, is going to be a fantastic ultimate. Great amount of burst damage. We don't focus a lot on the upfront burst. We got a lot of dot damage on this build. So you can see the dot damage portion of the tooltip coming in much higher here. And yeah, it's going to be a great AoE damage ability. It's going to stun everybody and put a massive dot on them as well. Great synergy with all the other dots we have on this build. So taking a look at the back bar, guys, the first skill that we have here is Hurricane. Hurricane, of course, is going to be that minor expedition buff. Access to both our major armor buffs, which is really nice to reduce the amount of damage we take. And, of course, it is going to put that big AoE field around you that increases in damage and size as it lasts longer on you. And this paired with all your AoEs and all the sets on this build, just so much synergy for healing on the Stam Sorc. I really, really like it. Really great ability for this build. The next skill that we have is Forward Momentum. This is going to be a good heal over time, but primarily this is here for that immobilization and snare immunity. So this is going to help you stay mobile on the build, help you get away from tricky things, as well as give you access to a bit of heal over time. And you can't neglect that major brutality buff, giving us that bonus weapon damage. Very, very nice as well. The next skill that we have is Streak. This is going to be a fantastic ability for this build. It is the primary stun outside of Streak. We actually don't have a stun on this spec, so Streak is going to be your primary stun. On top of it, it's going to be a fantastic movement ability, and it is an AoE stun as well, so you can stun a lot of targets with it. Really great ability for Sorc, I think. Really great ability to stun opponents and stay mobile. I mean, this is pretty bread and butter Sorc. Next skill that we got is Dark Deal, and this bad boy is here to help keep that stam sustain up when we need it. Of course, it's going to be a bit of healing power too if we need it on top of all the other healing that we have. But there you go. Primarily here for that sustain, we're going to trade 2,300 Magicka for 3,600 stamina instantly and another 2,400 stamina over 20 seconds. So make sure to cast this ability, I think, once every 20 seconds or so in combat, just so you keep that passive buff up on yourself. And the final ability that we have, guys, is Carve. And this is going to be synergizing yet again with our Master's Greatsword for that increased damage on the upfront amount of damage that it does. And then it will, of course, apply that physical bleed that ignores armor to the opponent for 10 seconds and grant minor heroism, which is really nice. So we got the synergy with the Master's Greatsword, of course, so we got a nice amount of burst coming from this. The AoE bleed is really nice because it's going to have synergy with all our sets yet again. And then minor heroism, of course, is so good because we're already on a sorc who gets the reduced alt cost. So minor heroism stacked with that reduced alt cost means that we'll be pumping Dawnbreakers out like crazy on this build. And then for the ultimate on this spec, T-Boys had actually gone with Energy Overload, opting for the live patch running the Overload bar so he could run more abilities on his Overload bar. In the Murkmire patch, there is no longer the ability to run a secondary Overload bar. So you could run a different ultimate here. You could still actually go for the Energy Overload. It's still like a great ability to use this patch. However, then you might want to run it on your front bar instead of Dawnbreaker. My personal experience with Sorc, I love things like Negate Magic. This particular build is missing a Daedric summoning ability on its back bar, so you could go with the Storm Atronach to give you that bonus health and stamina recovery that you're missing on your back bar. Or, of course, you know, you could just run whatever ult you want. But if you're on the live patch, go for that Energy Overload, and then, of course, you can run some other abilities. So T-Boys did run the Accelerate ability on this build on his Overload bar, and now that we no longer have the extra Overload bar, this has kind of been put to the back bar. You could trade this out for another ability, but to be honest, there's not really any ability that I think you'd want to trade this out for, other than maybe Bound Armaments. But trading it out for Bound Armaments, you give up the 8% max stam, and you give up the recovery to your health and stamina on this bar. So is it worth the Accelerate? I don't know. We already have the Major Expedition, so it's just for that minor force buff. So it's kind of up to you guys if you want to try to fit this in here. T-Boys, if you see this, where would you put Accelerate now, my man? Anyway, let's take a look at those champion points, guys. So starting in our green tree here, and something I just want to mention is that he loved stacking his champion points in his favorite stars. So I put the points where he put them, and then we of course had a few extra points to work with this patch. So I tried to even out the trees just a little bit from where he had them. But he loved to stack his points really heavy in his favorite stars. So let's begin. 11 Warlord and 39 Sprinter. We got to break free and we got to sprint. He's putting a lot of value on the sprint here over the break free. So we can stay mobile, I guess, is the goal. And the extra value on Sprinter here, of course, I think is because we are not running well-fitted, and this is going to make up for that lack of well-fitted as well. In the Lover tree, we have got 100 Mooncalf, 7 Arcanist, 7 Tenacity, and 32 in Healthy. So a massive amount in Mooncalf. Now, you could always go for 75 Mooncalf, which literally is 1% less stamina recovery, and you get 25 points that you can put elsewhere. And then you could put it in like Healthy or something because we have a ton of health recovery on this build as well. But that's kind of up to you. You know, that was his call to put the big heavy focus in Mooncalf here. I think that's the way that he likes it. So, you know, we'll leave it the way he has it. But I honestly would put these points somewhere else. But he liked that stam recovery. So there you go. And then, of course, we have a little bit in Healthy for that health recovery as well. Summon Arcanist for the Magicka recovery. Honestly, you don't need this here. I think this should go in Healthy instead. And then maybe, yeah, we'll take another point out of here, and then we can put that in Tenacity, and we still don't get the full thing. But there you go, guys. I think this spread is very heavy on stamina recovery. This is what T-Boys wanted. I wouldn't put it so heavy, but there you go. The next tree that we have here is Tumbling. We got 62 in Tumbling and 11 in Shadow Ward. Big focus on the roll dodge here, yet again, I think because we are missing that well-fitted in the gear, opting out for the impen instead. And then Shadow Ward has 11 points because you have to block in PvP, so just a few points in there as well. Taking a look at our blue tree in the Atronach, we have got 37 Master at Arms, and yeah, that's it. Just 37 Master at Arms here. In the Ritual tree, we've stacked it really high, 76 Mighty, 26 Piercing, 100 Precise Strikes, and 31 in Thaum. So this is yet again, like I said, he really wanted to stack his favorite trees really heavy. I like the 76 Mighty. I think it would be wasteful to go past here, but 76 is okay. 100 Precise Strikes, yet again, I think is a little bit overkill. could take like 20 points out of here. You lose 1% and reallocate it somewhere else. But because this is what T-Boys wanted, we will honor him and put the points where he said to put them. And then, of course, we've got some physical penetration for those front heavy points and summon Thaum. Now, if you guys wanted to balance this out a little more, you could take about 20 points out of Precise, bringing that down to 24% bonus, and dump the points in your other trees here. And then, of course, we don't have a lot of direct damage attacks on this build. A majority of what we have is actually damage over time, so not a huge focus on Mastered Arm either. In the Steed tree, we have got 25 resistant, 3 in spell shield, 72 ironclad, and 12 in medium armor focus. So a lot of focus on ironclad to reduce the damage we take from direct attacks. A lot of burst abilities are going to be direct attacks, so this is really nice. A few points in resistant here. Not a ton of points in resistant because he opted out of putting them here and decided to put them in other trees. So we do get a bit of crit resist from the front heavy, and then a little bit of spell shield and medium armor focus for that front heavy points as well. In the lady tree, we've got that 61 thick skin, so a huge focus on reducing damage over time here. Of course, because we have so much healing on this build and so much heal over time, we want to survive as many dots as possible because they're going to help keep our heals up and help keep our buffs up as well when enemies dot us up. So this is very important to have a lot of thick skin on this build. 38 in Hardy is going to be really nice for reducing the incoming physical damage, and then just a little bit in Elemental Defender. The trend here, of course, focusing on that defense against a physical target as opposed to a ranged or magical target, simply because this build is a physical, like, melee distance fighter, so you're gonna have to deal with a lot of physical targets like that, and I think that's just out of experience that he decided to focus against those physical targets, and he found better use out of focusing on Hardy here. Now, taking a look at the last tree, we've got 37 Expert Defender and 11 Quick Recovery. A lot of points in Expert Defender to reduce the incoming light and heavy attack damage we take. There is a lot of light and heavy attack damage in PvP. During a normal DPS parse, light attack damage makes up, I think, 20 to 25% of the damage you do. So in PvP, if your opponent's weaving, you can expect light attack damage to make up a big portion of the damage that they deal as well. So that is why he's put so many points in here. And then, of course, 11 points in Quick Recovery just for a little bit of healing power. All right, guys, so let's jump into that PvP commentary. So we're going to start off with quite the clip to begin with. As you can see here, we're just going to buff up, make sure all our buffs are set, and then bam, into the big Dawnbreaker there. The other player drops his Dawnbreaker as well, the friendly Warden, and T-Boys just putting the pressure on here with the cleaves, bringing down 4 players on the flag. Holy crap, huge amounts of damage. And then, of course, we're just going to switch into single target here. Make sure to dot these guys up with the Blood Craze and the cleave. Keep our other abilities up. Here you see the NPCs end up respawning, but so much AoE damage from T-Boys and the friendly Warden here, and the NPCs just end up going down right away. And you're just going to turn here and keep putting the pressure on. Dot this guy up. Make sure to give him some pepper here. And very tanky DK, tanking it out. The NPCs drop a negate. It's not enough. The DK ends up going down there to the Warden's Burst, combined with T-Boy's pressure. So just a little bit of a look at that big damage that this build can kind of put out there. Pretty sweet. Anyhow, let's move on to the next clip here, guys. As you can see, we're just going to enter a fight here. He's going to set up, make sure we set all our buffs up, our Rally, our Hurricane, make sure that we get our, the forward momentum, make sure that we get our AoE Quick Cloak down as well. And here we see them just quickly wipe the flag with the AoEs, and we've got two red players here that are just a little bit shy to come in on the I believe T-Boys is a yellow, so they're a little shy to come in on the flag here. And as you can see here, they're just going to wait to take down the NPC there. T-Boys goes into his overload, goes for that opportunistic overload. The DK gets the wings right away. And as you can see there, they put some good pressure onto this friendly Warden. T-Boy's just going to turn around here, throwing him the friendly Vigor. It's going to be really nice, giving him that Troll King proc as well. And we're going to turn and make sure to dot both these guys up with all our dots right away. We go for the Blood Craze. There you see big burst from the Warden as well. Big burst from T-Boys, going for that Dawnbreaker on top of it. But huge amounts of healing power from these two. And they manage to pull back and survive. And the DKs come back in, blocks up. They're going to be whipping on us here. Got a few more red players starting to pile up. Big burst there combined with the Warden to bring that guy down. going for all the dots here, making sure to keep the cleaves on these guys. We have a lot of players in front of us, so T-Boys is just kind of making sure to keep his buffs up and keep everybody dotted, so whenever a weak target presents themselves, they can take that target down. And here you see this guy goes for the res. We try to get the bash here, and there you see the bash on the Dawnbreaker. Massive spike to bring this guy down. Unfortunately, he does get the res, but we did manage to kill the player, and then we quickly finish off the other player here who is who's low on HP. There you see they take a big spike from behind from the red. T-Boys goes for that Vigor, and you see his friendly player's health just shoot right up. Thank God for Vigor Troll King. So good there to save them here. And big burst yet again on the friendly Warden. And T-Boys goes for the Vigor again, trying to save his buddy. But it's just a little bit too much pressure with the enemy negate coming down on top of it. So a lot of players on top of them here. And he's just going to go for a bit of kite up the top here and split them up. I believe he's going to jump. I think the plan is to jump here. Nope, he's going to stay and fight. We're going to fight these guys a bit, see what we can do. So make sure to just rebuff everything after going for the dark deal there. We got our resource back, our buffs back up. Go for a bit of bleeds on these guys and then jumping off the edge. Nice little combo there because as they fall off the edge, look at how much damage they have here. They have a lot of damage from those bleeds. They take the fall damage into the Dawnbreaker. Excellent bait for that kill there. Oh my God. IQ 200 play, so nice to bring those guys down. And then he's going to slip away on top of it. And, oh, going to go for the camp. No camp today. But I believe, oh, is he going to slip away? He's going to try. He's going to try. The Reds are mad, man. Oh, my God. He's killed too many of them now. They want their sweet, sweet revenge. Good teleport up to the side here. He goes for the kite around the rock, kind of cutting the line of sight from the other players there. Great call. Goes for another kite into here. And I believe his plan is to get some dark deals. Unfortunately, you see the DK fossilized there onto the leap. A lot of pressure from all the players. There you see that massive turn and burn with the Dawnbreaker. Oh, my God. Almost getting a handful of kills again. Oh my gosh, so destructive, so much burst potential, so much execute. Absolutely love it. Love the plays. Let's see what we got here. Another fight with his buddy Warden here. And what are we going to do? Probably jump on top of these nifty little Reds here. Trying to take this keep. Here you see the big spike from the Warden. Massive, massive amount of damage. T-Boys follows with the Dawnbreaker. And of course went for that early cleave. Oh my God, those guys literally just dropped instantly. So much damage. So much freaking damage. That melee brawler build. And here we go, staying on top of the opponents. Now, something that I did want to talk a lot about this build is that it is that melee brawler build, and you have to kind of stay on top of opponents to make sure that you maintain your healing power on this spec. There you see an excellent bash to stop that res. Get that healer really close. He actually goes down from the friendly player as well there. Really nice pressure. T-Boys making sure to keep the vigors up on the friendly players as well. But being in that melee brawler build, you have to stay on top of your opponents to make sure to get those hurricane procs. Oh my gosh, huge burst on the Warden. T-Boy's going to run away. But making sure to get those hurricane procs, making sure to get all that healing over time that you possibly can from Briarheart, get those heals from 7th Legion, etc. So there you really get to see kind of the strength of this medium armor build with not crazy resists, but a massive amount of healing power and able to just kind of sit in this line of fire thanks to that big amount of healing. Look at this. He can't use the door, but his heals are too strong to even die right away. Oh my gosh, so much healing power. I think that was a good little highlight of that there, and I believe we end up coming back out to fight them again. So just a little bit of interlude here as the EP kind of pile up a little bit more and start breaking the door again. And T-Boys and his buddy are going to put some siege up here, and they're going to lay the siege down and try to prevent these guys from entering. There you see the Warden being on the front right away to make sure that the Red don't push in unchallenged right off the bat. So at least somebody gets hit by this siege. There you see two really good scatter shot hits on these Red players there. There's another scatter shot. T-Boys, of course, look at that healing power. They can't even hurt him off this siege. Red's getting trapped in this siege, and they take it home. Oh my God, the last three pushing in. Oh my Lord, what a cleanup. Really nice play. And let's move on to that next clip. All right, guys, so one last fight here, and this last fight, he is actually running bow dual wield instead of the dual wield 2H that he was running before, so a little bit of a variation on the spec. He, of course, has switched in some bow abilities to make up for the missing 2H abilities, but anyway, I just want to say a big shout out to T-Boys for submitting this build and submitting the footage. Thank you so much, man. I really hope that you guys like this build. I thought it was a super sweet build. It is hella powerful. Oh my god, this is a really strong build. So I was really happy that that he sent it in. So thank you so much, T-Boys. Big shout out to that man. Check out his YouTube channel, guys. I have a link to T-Boys' YouTube channel in the description, so you guys can check that out. If you guys liked this video and you want to see more community videos, hit that like button, guys. And if you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button so you guys can catch more community content as well as my own content on the channel. And finally, if you guys want to submit your own community content, be it a build or some cool footage that you got for a montage, you guys can send it to KristoferESO@hotmail.com, and links, of course, in the description to help you figure that one out as well. And yeah, if you guys want to catch live gameplay, we are live on Twitch, so you guys can catch that there. And we are sponsored by What the Fast. They are a VPN for gamers. They give me about 40 better ping on average to ESO. So if you get crap ping to your favorite games, perhaps a VPN like What the Fast could help you out. It's free to try, no credit card, nothing to sign up. So there you go. Anyways, guys, big shout out again to T-Boys. What an awesome build that he sent us here. And this last fight, as you can see, not only does he manage to survive when the opponents had gone and killed his friend, but he manages to finish all the opponents off and get the res. Beautiful play. Thank you, T-Boys. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.